Hello, I'm Oral Gibbs, and welcome to Oral Gibbs Live. I have a very, very, very interesting guest. It's definitely not a stranger to us here in Oral Gibbs Live. You'll meet my guest after this words from the sponsors. The Windward Islands Bank in Phillipsburg and in Cul-de-sac and Simpson Bay. So Phillipsburg, Cul-de-sac, and Simpson Bay. For all your banking needs, it's a Windward Islands Bank and GEBE, a local water and electricity company. That's GEBE, serving St. Martin for over 6 decades. And I'm all Gibbs here with you, and with me I have a very, very, very interesting guest, Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson is the president of the Wifol. How are you doing, sir?
I'm pretty fine.
It's good to have you back.
Yeah, thank you.
After all this time.
Thank you.
How are things going? Because I heard at one time you was ill and so forth. Everything okay now?
Well, I'm fine. Okay, thank God.
Yeah. All right. So, when you look at what's happening today in the labor field, Mr. Thompson, you've been around a long time, right? And before we started, I was telling you that I remember 1984. In the former Nelson Tilly's, when they had this kind of crisis tax and everyone had to pay 10% of the salary. You remember that time, right?
Yes, I remember that. Matter of fact, we were very active in the discussion with that proposition at the time, because we didn't go along with the proposal. And we came with a suggestion. As a matter of fact, at the time, the employers' organization and the union met with the government to discuss those matters, unlike today, where there's dialogue between the unions and government and employer. That is lacking right now.
So there's no dialogue now today?
No. It's practically zero.
Wow. And that time was 1984 during the Maria Liberia Peters government.
Yes, as a matter of fact, when we look at what's happening right now in terms of our status on St. Martin, I would conclude that we are going back. We are backwards than going forward. As a matter of fact, in my arena, the labor field, we had more dialogue with the minister and with the Department of Labor. And at that time we had two departments. One was central government, and one was island government. Most of the labor issues were handled by the central government. And we had more satisfaction, more involvement, especially from the Office of the Mediator, which is lacking right now. As a matter of fact, this is the first time we are involved in so many court cases against the employer, because before that, there was more dialogue and there was more communication between the Department of Labor and the employer organization. So many disputes used to be resolved instead of going to court. But these days, most of the labor disputes has to end up in court now.
But that's kind of strange, because you will expect that since October 10, 2010, St. Martin became a part of a separate island, or they call it country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. We have more control of what's going on in the country. I thought there would be better cooperation and dialogue with the unions and government.
We thought that would have been the case. But however, why we have and we should promote young people in positions. However, education, knowledge of your profession is important. If you speak to a politician based on his or her language, you will know if they understand that profession. You speak to a doctor a mechanic, you speak to a lawyer, based on their expression, the different terminologies, you know that they know their profession.
Right.
When we speak to our politicians here, you see that they lack knowledge of international laws and treaties and conventions that should govern. Matter of fact, there's no dialogue between the trade unions and our government right now. And that is lacking. As a matter of fact, besides that, there is 2 employer organizations right now that has a conflict of which one should be recognized by government. There's a court case right now which one of them lost and they appeal. So that also hampering dialogue between employers and the trade unions and government.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit on this dispute?
Yeah, what happened is that based on international treaties and government, what the ILO, which the International Labour Organization, has put in place, and the United Nations has their articles that establish how dialogue should be between the social partners, because it's not only the politician alone has the right to manage and govern. The UN Charter and the ILO conventions outline that both government, the trade union, and employers must constantly be in dialogue in decision-making process that would make sure that the society in which we are part of manage properly, and every decision that is made has to be based on a consensus. And that is not happening right now. Matter of fact, before 10-10-10, there was more dialogue between the trade unions, government, and the employer organization. That was at a time here in St. Martin. And even in the Netherlands Antilles, because we've been to many meetings on Curacao and in Aruba, where both employers and trade unions and government would discuss matters affecting the society.
All right, in case you just joined us, this is Oral Gives Live. My guest is Mr. Thompson. He's the president of the Workers' Institute for Organized Labor, and we're here speaking with him about the different issues there. Now, you're president of the largest labor union on the island, right?
Well, in the private sector, Wifol is, you can say, yes, the largest trade union in hospitality in the private sector.
Now, I noticed you mentioned many times in the last 7 minutes about the cooperation in the former Netherlands Antilles. Do you think that's because when you look at the history of the struggle of organized labor in the former Netherlands Antilles, there was more respect? Now, you fast forward to St. Martin after October 10, 2010, and here you have a different mentality of probably maybe a little younger leaders. Not necessarily true, because in the beginning we had the older folks that were there. This is the youngest government we've had in the past, 11, 12 years. You think that's the reason why there's no real respect for the unions on St. Martin?
I would not go that far and say it's that more or less respect. It's a lot of lack of knowledge. I would go back far and say that on St. Martin, the political parties, the so-called parties, none of these parties are based on an ideology. So you have so much individual understanding of what politics really is. But it is not based on the party has a vision, a conviction on their goal and what they want to accomplish. Without a vision, you cannot train and put people in places.
Now, when you look at Simran today and as leader of the Wifol Union, what is your biggest concern?
My biggest concern is lack of dialogue, and that the way how the country and things are happening is decisions are made and not based on the knowledge of what should be done. For example, we're part of a kingdom. The government in The Hague, they are imposing measures on St. Martin, which are against international treaties that they signed off on. For me, hearing and seeing what's happening, our politicians lack the knowledge of international treaties and conventions that they should be discussing with the politicians in The Hague. You sign off this agreement, but you want me to impose these measures on the population.
Well, some people say, well, look, the government of St. Martin accepted payroll support of 86 point something million guilders for the workers. So in effect, they're saying, well, it's a give and take. The Dutch government gave the government of St. Martin 86.3, I think, million guilders in payroll support. And they're saying, here are the conditions, and you have to live up to those conditions because of what you accepted.
The Dutch government has an obligation. There's an international obligation based on what you call 17 agreements among the nations of the UN. One of them is poverty elimination. If you going to establish a condition that will bring poverty to the population, and there's no equality within the kingdom, they say how things are done in the Netherlands is done based on their obligation, but there's also obligation within the kingdom. And if we were to be part of these discussions as trade unions, things will be different. And that's why I'm saying there's no dialogue between the trade union and government. Because in the past, I remember before 10-10-10, we went to a meeting organized by the ILO in Trinidad. And when we came back, there was a meeting in our old government building. And the delegation that was going to discuss the fractions within the kingdom and the Trinidad Antilles are going different places. Curacao on its own, Aruba was already on their own, St. Martin was going on their own also. When they were going to Holland to discuss, delegation from Curacao and from Aruba, comprised of tripartite delegation, employer organization and trade union organization. St. Martin, only the politicians alone went. I remember when I came back from that meeting off island, I jotted reference that there should be a tripartite delegation, because we realized that there were a number of international obligations and treaties that the UN had in place and the ILO that was not being addressed. And it came to pass that it happened right now. And that's why we get this illusion that St. Martin is a country within the kingdom. That's not true. St. Martin is still a colony. And being a colony, the colonizer has certain obligation. When you look, if you were to go on Google right now and see how the Caribbean is structured based on the ILO obligation to these territories, these islands in the Caribbean. You have a group of islands that has a different status, and those other islands that are still colonies, they are different category and based on the ILO structure in the Caribbean, because the ILO head office is in Trinidad. And a couple of weeks ago, one of the ILO persons came to St. Martin. For the first time that an ILO delegation came to St. Martin and the union wasn't involved. In the past...
The union wasn't involved?
Right. In the past, any ILO person would come to St. Martin. It was the Wifol that usually used to initiate the Chamber of Unions, those things. And we always make sure that the government and the employer organization is part of those discussions.
Why do you think that's happened this time?
Lack of knowledge, knowing the role of your partners. We are partners. We have the same responsibility as the politicians to make sure that St. Martin runs properly.
But you're a member of the ILO.
Yes, we are part of the ILO.
They should have informed me that they had a representative coming to St. Martin.
Yeah, but based on the structure, the government should be the one to initiate the invitation to its partners on the island, in the country.
And that didn't happen?
That didn't happen. We found out that the person was here and there was a meeting with the minister, but there was no trade union involved in that.
So I guess you found out after that release was published?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was lacking.
But then, do you think it's fitting for you as president of the Wifol to inform the ILO of your feelings about this whole situation, that you did not approve of it?
Definitely. As a matter of fact, the president of the Chamber of Labor Unions will be addressing that shortly.
You know what I find so strange, Mr. Thompson, is that the island's gone through some difficult periods from the time I started this program back in 1984. And I really thought, or maybe I was naive to think that things will get better, being optimistic. So when the time came that we moved from a part of the Netherlands Antilles, which at the time was 5 islands after Aruba left in 1985. Yeah, 85. So it was January 86, I think Aruba left, right? What happened is that...
Before that?
85, I think, yeah, 85. The thing is that today, and we were told by the politician, this is going to be a great opportunity for us because now we are in charge. We are doing things for ourselves. But it seems like we just can't get it right.
You see, and sometimes I reflect on the past. I remember when Dr. Clotty, Dr. Watty was in charge of the island, the government. He had some policies that we would go along with. And the other person, you know, St. Martin is governed by 2 European colonizers France and Holland. But you had two politicians that had a different thinking of the island and its inhabitants, Dr. Petty and Dr. Claude Watty.
Right.
I remember in my early part of being the union president, many petitions were sent to Holland from different people. Many came to Wifol office to sign off, and I refused to sign off on those where persons were putting together documentation to have the Hague take over certain things or get involved in St. Martin affairs.
Right.
I know that those petitions was contrary to international obligation of the colonizer to their colonies.
Right.
So I could have never signed off on those things, and I refuse. Today, it come back to harm those persons who organize those petitions and who send requests to Holland to intervene.
That's quite interesting that you say that, because I feel the same way.
Yeah. Now, as a historian, I don't forget those things there. It is important that we know that we can go to a different chapter in our history and have things change. Because if we don't change and correct the mistakes that have been made and understand our role as leaders in our society, okay? In saying that we must dialogue. The government and the trade unions must dialogue. And the employer organization, after the hurricane that we had.
Which one? Irma?
Yes.
Or Lewis?
Irma.
Okay.
Okay? You know, we had the pandemic. Things changed. The Prime Minister, after Wifol for years have been saying, the SER, which should be the main body on the island to advise government and parliament. You have other entities which been imposed on St. Martin, and the SER that's supposed to be had a situation where the employer organization wasn't properly recognized in that body until 2 years ago. The Prime Minister decided to have that structure fixed. And as I mentioned earlier, there's two bodies right now, and one who went to court. They lost their court cases and they appeal, but you have two employer organizations. There should be one, only one.
Hold that thought, Mr. Thompson. Just want to make a little correction here. Aruba obtained its separate status on the 1st of January 1986. I just want to make sure that it's clarified, because I said 85, so it's 86. And I want to come back to what you're saying now, these two organizations. So who are the two organizations?
You have the Swaliga organization, and you have the Employers Council.
So the Swaliga organization,
that was the one that the Prime Minister make sure that is established as the main body. But a number of employers decide who are part of the SHTA to have their own thing. So they challenge the government for establishing that body. Instead of they themselves become part of that body, they decided to challenge that body.
Right.
I went to court, and the last two court cases
That's SHTA lawsuit to court case.
Well, not SHTA.
Oh, okay.
The Employers Council. Because that's their name now. The SHTA still remain an entity.
That's a large trade organization and that's it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's still an independent body, but the number of bodies, because there are different employer organizations besides the SHTA. You had the married trade, and you had the timeshare association.
So why they all can't just come together as one umbrella?
Exactly. Now we, because Wifol is part of the SED, right?
Right.
And I've been a member of the SED since before 10-10-10, since we were Netherlands Antilles. So I know the structure based on the ILO and the UN Charter that there should be dialogue between the social partners, and that is employer, employee, and employer. Government, those three bodies must work together. Now, the Prime Minister tried to get that body established, and I would call them the capital elites decide to challenge it. And it is still hampering the function of the SED right now.
So you're saying the capitalist elite don't agree with it?
Huh? Yes, there are some capitalist elites on St. Martin that they think that they can dictate things. We know who they are. I'm not going to mention names.
I think everyone knows by now.
Right. Yeah. Okay. But that has to change. That has to change. I hope that, for example, we have been trying to have a meeting with the Minister of Labour for the past 2 months now, and we haven't received any confirmation. And it's a matter of just dialogue and to share our vision and work together as partners, because we are partners. We are not against the system as such. We are partners. If you recognize we are partners, then we should talk. We should dialogue.
So have you ever met with the minister?
Not directly, but we have been in different settings, but not.
So no formal meeting.
No formal meeting where we can discuss based on the union position, especially Wifol, who is the main union in the hospitality private sector. Because we have, for example, let me give you an example. Look at Great Bay. Great Bay has been demolished since the hurricane of 2017.
The Great Bay Hotel,
right? Okay. We have agreement with the developers to, when they open back, at least minimum 2,000 employees they want to employ. Now you're talking about 4,000 individuals that might have to be depend on the income of some employees there. And you will get another group of workers who would be part-time workers. But if you have about 2,000 permanent workers, it means that the government can benefit from the taxes or whatever.
Yeah, for the wage tax.
Right, and so on. But up to this moment, we have never had a meeting with the government to share those discussions that we've had. We have had many meetings with the developer, and we don't even know what is the status right now with the building of that project there. So I am hoping that we can get the dialogue that we need to have things properly running on our island.
It's been now, what, 5 years since Hurricane Irma, and
Yeah.
it's taken quite some time for that project to move.
Yeah. I mean, I pass there probably every day, and up to last week, I went to see the person in charge of the project to know exactly what's going on. But I want to talk to my partner, government, to know what is holding up. What's the problem? I know right now we're in hurricane season, so nothing can be done. So let's say another year before things start, and that project might take 2 to 3 years. But at least it is something that's important for the economy of St. Martin. We know the problem that they encounter initially, but that should be something, because we, in our area, we have dialogue with the owners of Flamingo and Royal Palm, those other resorts that are opening, that are functioning right now. You see, DV has established a new area because we, as a union, we work with the developers in making sure that the economy be important for us and workers. So we want to make sure that people have employment and the government get the revenue that they deserve to run the country. Yeah. And don't be beggars. You know, when you go to speak to The Hague, yeah, you speak from a position of strength.
Exactly. Have you heard anything about the Pearl of China? And that was a huge project that was...
Well, I've been questioned. Those things that we want to know, because there was a big ceremony to get that project going, and we haven't heard nothing since then.
Yeah. You know, a few minutes ago you mentioned the Social Economic Council, that you was a part of it,
yeah,
your former Nelson Tillies. And people meet me and they go to my Facebook page and they say, well, we noticed you're posting releases from the Sarah in Curacao. And I said, yeah, but I don't get anything from the Sarah in St. Martin, so I can't post what I don't get. It is so strange. It seems like in Curacao they're well organized. I don't want to put down anyone here, but that's what the impression I got.
You see, because there's a certain guidelines that we follow, and again, when you lack knowledge of international obligations and you write as a partner, that those things will come. We give advice that is requested from Parliament or from the ministers, but we are not allowed to publish those advices unless it is given the okay after a certain time.
Really? Wow. Well, Mr. Thompson, we have to go to a break. We're going to come back, right? We're going to continue speaking with Mr. Thompson right here on Oral Gibbs Live. Please stay with us.
In order to know what you want out of life, you need to observe, listen, and try it yourself.
Promises, we can make it if we work together. That's just how it is. Let's stand strong, and serve the land. Working hard as one nation. Yes, we can.
The more difficult it is to achieve, the more satisfying it is to make it.
Just believe in us, we'll see you through it all. Oh, never give up. Oh, never give up. We can make it.
Never forget those who were there for you. And if you dream big, you might just achieve it.
The power to serve, standing for community. OGB got the power to serve, the power to serve. We got the energy. OGB.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net.
My guest on Oral Gives Live is Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson is president of the Wifol Union. It's good to have him here with us. Mr. Thompson, I admire you. You've stuck it out for so long, and it looks like you're not giving up at all.
Well, when you're called to do something and you share the vision and you have a concept and you share it, I believe in collective leadership. And we have a group of what we call in unionism cadres, that people have been trained. And if you share your vision and your people realize that you make sure that things do accordingly, they have the confidence in you and they support you and you work together. Because I don't believe in a one-man show. I believe that we work together. Based on the structure of Wifol, we have shop stewards in different companies, and they are the leaders of the organization. We meet together and we share, we get their ideas, and we share our vision and ideas, and so that's how we keep. And for me, it's like your hobby, That's why when we became president of Wifol, we changed the name from William Islands Chamber, William Islands Labor Union. We maintain the abbreviation Wifol, but it is the Workers' Institute, because we believe in training, we believe in education. And the different, we represent workers not only based on our law, we represent workers even though they are not organized.
So even if they're not a member of the union?
You can be a member of the union, but our law says you must have the majority of workers.
That's not the same on the French side, right?
No, because based on international law and workers' rights, human rights, the trade union is an integral part of that tripartite body that must manage and run the country.
So in other words, a company having 10 employees, you have to have 51% of those employees to represent them, right?
That's our law still said that.
But what about, I don't think that's the same on the French side.
No.
It's
because every worker has a right to be part of the organization.
All right. So you prefer that one?
Yes, because that is based on international law.
So why can't we change it here?
Because we lack the knowledge. The politicians, they lack the knowledge
Wow.
of their rights. Like I said earlier, when they go to The Hague, the military politicians in The Hague, they know that all politicians lack knowledge of their rights. I mean, The Hague sign off on something, right?
Yeah.
But you go there and they say, look, we're going to cut in St. Martin, we give you this, and you accept it. We as unions will never accept that. That's why when the workers stood up, Wifol was the only union that never agreed to any cut. We signed an agreement with the company that owned Oyster Bay, right? We signed an amendment to our CLA, and the workers got back pays from the time the government cuts in the private sector.
Yeah.
They got back pay because we never accept any cuts. So the workers got for the past 2 years, they got the increases based on our agreement. For the next 2 years, they will get their wage increases accordingly, because we go according to the ILO conventions and the right of workers, equal remuneration based on the kingdom. So the same where workers' rights that is in The Hague has to be applied here in St. Martin.
And that's not the case.
And that's not the case. All these cuts to civil servants, when civil servants or workers come from Holland, they don't cut their salary. Matter of fact, they get benefits.
Yeah, but our government agreed to those conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next thing that Wifol doesn't accept, persons come in and take over positions of persons who on the island. If persons lack the knowledge, then train them, but don't come and tell me that you're going to take over the position, like on the airport, on the harbor, wherever. We'll never accept that. Every resort on St. Martin where you have a local manager, it's where Wifol is, and where we stop the owners from the states to bring in people, because we don't accept those things. We believe all people have the experience and they have the knowledge. If they lack the knowledge, then train them, but don't bring somebody and take out their position, because they still have to share the knowledge to those new persons who come in who doesn't know the system.
So what are the properties now that have local managers?
You have like Royal Palm, you have Flamingo, you have Bel Air, you have these are the main resorts on the island, and they have.
That's good. That's good. The reason why I said that's good, if I go back to the 1970s and the 80s with Mullet Bay,
right?
Mullet Bay had the majority of local managers.
Right.
And
Right.
It was a huge property.
Yeah.
With over 600 rooms, employing over 1,000 persons.
That's right. And that is where I get my inspiration from. Because I remember Mullet Bay, all the managers from top to bottom, they were mainly locals.
Yeah.
Even in the casinos, today, you have hardly any local manager in the casinos. And that wasn't the case.
Yeah. I remember when I went to work at Malabar as a manager, I went through a 2-month period of training and so forth before I could start.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are very good days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Mr. Thompson, earlier you said that there are a lot of court cases now between the union workers and the business community. Why do you think that's happening now?
The reason because before the office of the mediator, which is supposed to be a legal entity within the structure, when there are disputes, the mediator should have, I think they have changed the authority right now. The employer could be called out or called to a meeting, and they would come to the office of the mediator, and they would have respect for the mediator. But that's not the case right now.
I think the law states that you have to come if the mediator requests you to.
Yeah, but I think they make some
Adjustment?
Some adjustment.
So it's not the same anymore like in the former Nelson Davis.
No. Once ago, the mediator could have summoned you to a meeting, and you couldn't refuse. If you refused, they had the authority to ask the police to escort you, and you will come. But not today.
You think that was better then?
Oh, sure. Listen, we have a problem with the towers, with our Ansari right now.
Yeah.
Right? We had a little action at Muller Bay by the Gulf Coast. The mediator called us and said, listen, please stop your action. Come to my meeting, my office for meeting. We went there. And that's over a year now. We never had a follow-up meeting. We went into negotiation with management. We had an agreement with management, and they would pay the workers in 2 days' time. 2 days, today, they still haven't received the money. And the mediator has not convened any meeting to follow up on what is what.
Did you request the meeting?
Sure. This is a procedure. You call the meeting, there's a procedure to follow. Look, we have a problem right now, and this might end up in court. We had a referendum at Port Copacoy. This is the first time a referendum was held at the Wifol building, because the employer refused to follow the instruction of the mediator to have the referendum on the job, where it would be more convenient for the employees. The employer refused to come to the referendum. We won the referendum. We sent a proposal to start negotiation to the employer, and we saw that they were reluctant to start the negotiation, because I said, well, if they refuse to come to the referendum, this is a group of persons who really has no respect for the office of the Minister of Labor, and more so the office of the mediator. We send a request to start mediation process, and nothing has come from that up to this moment.
Really? Who's that employee? Do you care to say?
The management for Port Copacoy.
Port Copacoy?
Yeah. Mr. Moose. I forget his name.
Yeah, well, at least we know it's political McCoy.
Yeah. So, that is a case that we have right now pursuing, because the homeowners, they had even problems with the management down there. One of the managers, who apparently didn't have no proper documentation to be a manager, when the immigration went there, the man jumped through the window.
Really?
Yeah. And that was it.
He jumped through the window?
Yeah.
Disappeared? Wow.
So that is a challenge that we have. And this is the first time we have so many court cases. And the reason why, that's why I say, because it doesn't respect the office of the labor minister and the mediator. They doesn't comply. So we have to go to court. Right now, just this last week, we had a court case where an employee was dismissed from his job, and this is at a DV. The area of the Department of Labor, not the military department, because there's a dispute, this part where you can launch your complaint. They sent to DV that the dismissal of this person was not legal. So we have to challenge that. Hopefully, we get a decision next week. The judge asks if we can come to a conclusion. We have opposition because we doesn't agree with the reason why the person was dismissed. And we know already that there is a decision, advice given to the employer, but the matter went to court. I know in the past, the mediator would have had more authority, and that matter would have never gone to court. So,
let me ask you, Mr. Thompson. We've spoken many, many times about this particular issue. 6 months contract, is it dead? Because every time you hear that, well, it's almost ready, and then nothing happens.
There should be no there should be no contract. 6 months contract
Should be abolished, right?
When a job is permanent, especially if the person is a St. Martiner.
So should it be abolished or just maintained for a specific time?
Well, it should be abolished.
But some people say we are seasonal island.
No. This before time, right?
Mm.
In the 60s, 70s, St. Martin had what we call a season.
Right.
And there were persons who were permanent, and the hotels used to employ seasonal workers. Now, from the 80s, that changed. St. Martin have no more seasonal business.
No more off-season, really.
Right. We have timeshare,
Right.
and we have condos. So the jobs are more or less permanent now. What they have done recently is what we call outsource jobs, which are permanent, to what we call outsource companies, which there are more abuse of workers right now than before.
Really?
And that's the reason why the law has to be amended when it comes to contract. Because if a job is permanent, then you have persons who should be employed. So we are taught, we in our CLA where we have the companies, we have a company could have a contract with a worker for a period of time, for what we call trial period. But as long as that period finish, the person should be given a more secure job.
You're talking about the 2-month trial period?
Yeah, maximum in our contracts. But the law doesn't, and that's why the dialogue between the union and the ministers is important, because we can give advice based on those things, you know?
Right.
And based on ILO convention, you call it decent work. This one, decent work, is a convention by the ILO that guarantee work and not what they call minimum wage, but a living wage.
Well, Mr. Thompson, I'm looking at my clock and it's saying, well, we only have 35 seconds to go.
Okay.
So anything you have in closing?
Well, I would like to have dialogue with the Ministry of Labor and the unions and our government in particular. That social dialogue based on the ILO Convention 144, where employer organization, the employees organization, because the unions are well organized. We have the Chamber of Labor unions. The employers organization need to be one body, and government, which is one body, there should be dialogue. Because we have the same responsibility to make sure that the island economy and its inhabitants have equal rights.
Well, Mr. Thompson, thank you. I want to wish you much success. I know you really want that dialogue with government.
Yes.
Yeah. And I hope we can have you back. We had a quite interesting discussion here today. All right?
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. And that's it for now. Mr. Thompson is the president of the Wifol Union here in St. Martin. I'll see you next time right here on Oral Gibbs Live. Till then, take care. Bye.